Well, good evening and welcome back. Welcome back again, Realty Pros. As promised, this evening we are moving forward in our new agent training series. We're diving headfirst into working with sellers this evening. We're going to be talking about your listing consultation and the mindset of a seller so that we can uncover all of the fears, uncertainties, and doubts, and then we can lay out for them all of the features, advantages, and benefits of selling their home and working with you guys as their professional, their realty pro, okay? So as you can see in front of us, we have our listing consultation, which is available for each one of you in a couple different platforms. This is available in your BrokerMint library, but it's also been shared with each of you in your Google Slides. So from your G Suite, you just go to your slides and you'll see your presentation version of this consultation right there, ready for you, okay? So as always, our trainings are interactive, so participation is welcome. You guys are gonna walk through this information. We'll walk through it together, I should say, but I wanna make sure that you guys understand what is available to you within this listing consultation tool, okay? So before we begin, let me ask, is there anybody who's had the opportunity to read through their listing consultation as of yet?
I have.
All
I
right.
have a
And what,
little briefly.
okay. Excellent. All right. So then for the rest of you, no worries, because we're going to get through a great deal of this evening. So let me ask you, for those two who have read through it, what questions do you have based on what you've seen thus far?
I have a question. I know with the buyer consultation packet, we have the one online, so the actual slideshow, and then there's the actual hard copy, like the 51-page document. With the listing presentation, that's just the one listing presentation, right? We don't have another printed version of that. We just do what we're looking at now.
That is an excellent question. And to answer your question, yes, this is the version that we have, our presentation version. What we give to the sellers, however, is something different. When we do our comparative market analysis for our listings within Bright MLS, we include all of the pages in there because your listing presentation, the way that we constructed it, was to mirror a lot of the information that is going to be needful for your sellers. So when you go to Bright, you do your full comparative market analysis, you include all the pages. The information that we cover in our Porterhouse listing presentation is going to be echoed in their comparative market analysis from Bright MLS. Now, of course, your Porterhouse version is going to be a lot more robust and it's going to have a lot more detail, but the meat and potatoes of it is going to be available to them within Bright MLS. That's one of the resources available for sellers. So you just email that out, or
Right.
if you're in the office, you print it out and put it in one of your Porterhouse folders. Now, there is another resource available for you too. And what I can do is I will share with you guys. Let me go to BrokerMint so you can see where to find that. So in your BrokerMint library, I want to go to this so that you can see it. Your tools. Let's see where that is. Because you actually have a version that is a presentation-like version. It includes both the listing piece as well as the purchase piece. It is right here. So your buyer-seller guide combo. So this is information that you can send to your sellers in advance. So you can just shoot this on over to either your buyers or your sellers, and it's going to cover a lot of the information that they'll need preliminarily, and it'll kind of set the framework for your presentation that you're going to do with them. But this one, of course, is for both buyers and sellers. So what we're going to use is this coupled with the one that's in, or the one that you'll prepare, the comparative market analysis that you'll prepare using Bright MLS. Okay. So
Okay.
in this one, if you chose to email them to them, then this is something that's available. There are some printed versions in the office. So there are quite a number of these magazines in the office if you wanted to share this with your sellers also. But just as an additional resource, you have a couple things at your disposal.
I guess I was asking too, Jasmine, because of the I've been saying to print out the buyer packet, but I would actually like to I need to print out the listing presentation just so I can thumb through it to review it.
Absolutely. Now for the listing,
just more.
You know what, Curtis, I heard that question differently this time. So because you've said that, I'm going to go back to your broker mint library. And in your broker mint library, and you're working with sellers, scroll down to that one. And you actually have your listing presentation right here for you to print out and thumb through. So I know you have your slides in your Google Drive, but you also have this here available for you guys to print, for you to download, for you to print so that you can practice it and all that good stuff. So yes, it's available to you in version. So.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you for asking that question. All right. So we will begin, guys. Can anybody tell me, what do you think the seller's primary focus or the seller's primary concern is?
How much they'll be able to get for their home?
Definitely. How much can they sell their home for? Anybody? You think of anything else?
How quickly you could sell their home?
Yep. Anything else? So both of you are spot on. The vast majority of sellers, what they're going to want to know right offhand is they're going to want to know how much, how long, and how easy. So just think about that from the seller's perspective. How much, how long, and how easy. Okay. Now I'm actually going to go to where we were. Let's see. Multiple slides open for you guys there. Let me go back to broker mint and open up here for you guys. Here we are. So there is a very important page in your Porterhouse buyer seller guide combo, and it's talking about the importance of overpricing, because your sellers are going to want to know, how much can you sell my property for? How long is it going to take? And how easy is it going to be? Okay. So your how much, you guys are going to get that how much from your comparative market analysis. So that won't be, it's not magic there. You're going to look at the numbers, and the numbers are going to tell you exactly what that price range is for that property, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about how you're going to determine what that list price or the best list price is going to be for the property based on the things that that property has to offer. Okay, so each one of the properties, you're going to see, when you do that market analysis, you're going to see a low, you're going to see a median, and you're going to see a high value for the property. But it is most important to have this conversation with your seller about the property's value well in advance, because one of the most important obstacles for you to overcome as an agent is going to be price, because if you can get that seller to agree on a price, then 9 times out of 10, your seller is going to be able to list with you. So that is going to be the most essential hurdle to overcome. So you have several resources. I'm glad Curtis asked that question, because it allows you guys to see where those resources are. But determining the value of the seller's home and making sure that their pricing is realistic is essential, not only to the sales success, but for them using you as an agent. So the page that I wanted to kind of focus on is keeping right here, where you want to make sure that they keep their idea consistent with the market analysis. Make sure that they have a realistic expectation of what their home's value is. Because as we know, if they price it too high, they're going to lose buyers, they're going to lose time. There's so many things that are going to negatively impact the sale of their home just by overpricing it, okay? So that's one of the resources available to you guys there. So you can go back, you can print that out, you can go through that information, but just knowing how much that property is worth is going to be the essential and most important part of your preparing for your listing appointment. Does anybody have any questions about that thus far?
No, not yet.
All right. And then how long is it going to take? Where are we going to find that information? If we want to know how long it's going to take to sell that property, where are we going to find that?
On Bright, on the
On Bright.
MLS.
That's exactly where we're going to find that information. So I'm going to go to, here's a piece of a market analysis from Bright MLS. How much and how long are going to be determined by the market, okay? How easy is going to be based on the seller, all right? How much you're doing your comparative market analysis, 3 to 5 comps, no less than 3. 5 would be great. If you only have 3 that are similar, that's fine. 3 to 5 comps. But what you're going to see in that is you'll see a price range of low, median, and high. How do you determine where to price your listing as it pertains to the comps that are low, median, and high? Does anybody have any ideas of how to reach the how much? And feel free to take a guess.
Whatever the property is the most similar, right, to
Yes.
your property.
Mhm.
Like as far as square footage, bedrooms, features, right?
Yes.
I don't know what else.
Excellent. Anybody else? Well, Kristen, you definitely got us on the roll. We can just go with that in and of itself. As you see in the market analysis, you see several different listings that we're going to take a look at, and they're each priced differently. Okay. So
Jasmine,
one of,
are you
go
showing
ahead.
market analysis? Because I can't see anything but the home selling process page. So I didn't know if you were
Got it.
showing something different.
Thank you for sharing that with me. I was, let's see. I have moved to various slides. Can you guys see my screen?
I can see it, but like I said, all I see is the home selling process page from the booklet.
Thank you for that.
Sounds-
All right, let me stop that and let me reshare. How about now?
Okay, now can see it.
All right, excellent. I was going through this market analysis, guys. Thank you so much, Paula, for letting me know. If something happens with the technology, if I'm trying to go to a different page and you guys don't see it, let me know right away, because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So as we were talking about the market analysis, here are the homes that we were looking at. And now we'll dive into the information. As we talked about, the seller wants to know how much. They want to know how long is it going to take. And this is where that information is going to be derived from. All right. How much? We have a couple of comps here, and I'm moving straight down to our comparable properties. This is going to be an analysis right here. So this is where I was pointing out the information for the low, median, and high comps there. So as you can see, low, median, and high from 705 up to 760. And I asked the question, how do you determine where to list that property within that price range? And Kristen gave us a great answer there. So now we're going to take it from there and actually answer that question, because she answered it spot on. It's going to be based on bedroom bathroom ratio, features, and all of the different things contained within the property. That being said, if you are pulling this information up in Bright MLS, how are you going to determine that? Because it only shows the bedroom bathroom ratio, the square footage, and all those things. So what we want to uncover is how similar or dissimilar these properties are, right? And we can already see the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and the square footage, but now we need to take it a step further. We need to go to Bright and we need to actually take a look at those properties. And this is something that you're going to do. We will not belabor it, but I want to make sure that whenever we do a market analysis, you are looking at far more than just the numbers on the paper. You need to go through each one of those listings and you need to scrub those photos. Scrub the photos to make sure that you're choosing a property that is as much like your subject property as possible, okay? Now I'm going to go through each one of those pictures, but this is something that you'll need to do for each one of the listings that you get, okay? So here's a property. We move on to the next property. You're going to do the same thing. And based on how similar that property is with regards to everything we've named thus far, in addition to the photos of the property, that's how you're going to choose where to price that property, right? There's another attribute, however, that's oftentimes overlooked, and that is the below grade square footage, okay? So when you look at properties in Bright MLS, oftentimes your colleagues, your fellow agents, they're going to put in the above grade square footage for properties, but oftentimes the below grade square footage is overlooked. So when you look at a property, you want to look at all of that information, including the square footage that is finished below grade. Because as an example, if you were to take a look at this property to determine its value and you say this is 4535 in terms of square footage, but then you scroll down, and if we go to the tax record, let's see. And let's find the rest of the square footage, total below grade 2197. So that's a totally different bracket. So you've added another 2,197 square feet on that. So I point that out specifically because oftentimes we'll look at market analysis and you'll say, okay, I'm comparing it. This one has 4,500, this one has 4,500, when in actuality, this one has over 6,600 square feet of total finished living space. Okay, so when you add both of those in terms of your total square footage of finished living space, that's something to consider. So why am I going through this information in advance? I'm going through this information in advance because I need to scrub this information before I ever meet with my seller. Because when I meet with that seller, I need to have a firm understanding of what his or her market is doing and how much I can likely get them for listing their home. So I need to have paid attention to everything that's going on in their market that we saw from one page. Then I need to open up each one of those comparables, scrub them, look at those photos to see how like kind those properties are or how, dissimilar they are. And then I need to go through it with a fine tooth comb and take a look at this tax record to say, okay, this is the above grade finished square footage. What is the below grade finished square footage? So that I know I have a true apples to apples comparison. Okay, so this is just in my preliminary listing prep before I ever get in front of the sellers. Does anybody have any thoughts, any questions or comments about that so far? All right, that's how we're going to determine how much. All right, Now, our sellers, most of the time, your sellers, they're going to come to you with an idea of how much they think they can sell their homes for. They have, if they're interested, depending on where they are in the process, they'll say, hey, Joy, I wanted to, schedule to have you to come do a listing appointment with me. I'm ready to sell my home. And then when you have that conversation, you need to uncover certain things in advance so that you can be prepared for that listing appointment and that you can win the listing. All right. So in preparing for that listing appointment in advance, there's some information that you're going to have to gather. So in addition to the property's details, is there anything that you guys can think about that you should gather from the seller in the beginning before you even meet with them for the listing appointment?
When the property will be available, what the additional features are, if there are any tenants in the property.
Excellent. Yes.
How
All of
much,
those.
how much they owe on the home?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All of those are essential items, and yes to each one of those. So I am going in between slides. Are you guys able to see the slide that I just went to, or which slide is available or visible to you guys?
The listing intake form?
Yes, perfect. All right, excellent. All right, so here is where you're going to gather that information. When you create your transaction in Brokerment and you assign your listing checklist to it, at the very top, you're going to have your pre-listing activities. Included in that is going to be your listing intake form. So you're going to gather all of the information that both Joy and Kristen just shared, in addition to this information that's on your listing intake form. Okay. You need to know what their thoughts are about price. You need to know how quickly they need to sell. You need to know how many mortgages they have on the property. You need to know if they're current on their mortgage. You need to know if they've received any bank notices. You need to know all of this information in advance, right? So we were looking at a comparative market analysis, for which we need the information like bedroom bathroom ratio, but there's so many other things that you need in order to be able to more fully research that property and be prepared for your listing appointment with them. How about upgrades? So any additions, bonuses, and things that they may have added to the property since the property was built. Because your tax records are most often incomplete because sellers will likely finish a basement after the property is built or add another bathroom, an addition, and all those things. So I urge you guys to make sure that you gather this information from your sellers well in advance of ever meeting with them, because you want to make sure that you're able to prepare and go to your listing appointments ready. All right. How about information about condo associations or HOAs? You think that's important to gather?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. So you want to make sure you even ask those questions. Ask the seller if they have an HOA. Do they have a condo association? If so, are they current on those payments? What are those payments? How often are those payments due? This is information that is crucial. It's going to be crucial to your sales process. So you need to get this information well in advance so that you can begin to prepare your listing documents, right? Because based on this is going to determine which disclosures you need to add to those listing documents. Because if they have or don't have an HOA, it's no need to send them an HOA addendum if it doesn't apply, but you want to make sure that you ask that information, okay? And you have the section down there for notes for anything else that is pertinent or property specific that may not be, that may not apply to the majority of properties, but it's property specific. So you want to make sure you take those notes there, okay? All right, so let's go back so we can just continue to take a look at that seller's mindset. How long is that going to take? That process is going to be determined by your market analysis. And I have a number of tabs open here. So I'm trying to find the tab that I was on. Here we are. There it is. Your days on the market. That's how we're going to answer that. From your comparative market analysis, it's going to do those numbers for you so you don't have to take a guess, right? So as you're looking at the various list prices, you're able to see, okay, this property was on the market for this many days, that property was on the market for that many days, and you can have a conversation with your seller about what the average days on the market is. And that's going to be essential because, say by chance, as you see, we have listings from 705 on up to 760, right? Now, if your seller says, okay, I want to list my property at 765 or 770, and we know that the average days on the market at the time that this CMA was done was 18 days, which has well since been cut in a third or a fourth since then with the COVID market. But if you see that that property is on the market well over 18 days, up to 34 days, then that is a prime example of a property being overpriced. And that is your segue into a conversation with your seller, right? So you will have that conversation with your seller in advance. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, based on this list price, the average days on the market was about 2 days. The median days on the market at this price was about 17 days. The high days on the market at this list price was about 34 days. So Mr. or Mrs. Seller, my recommendation is, based on everything that we've seen, you list your property at X, Y, or Z, and that's what you share with them. So that when you get to the point, if by chance, every now and again, you'll have a seller that will give you pushback and they'll say, Joy, I hear you. You tell me that my property should sell for about 730. I really think that my property should sell for 780. How can you use this information to help convince that seller to list their property at market value? And that's for you, Joy. We can start with you, Joy, and then we can go around. Tell me what your thoughts are on how you use this information on the market value, on the market analysis to convince your sellers.
How I would use it. I mean, to me, it's a guideline.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to have a discussion point with the sellers.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also may help to keep the sellers in a certain range. So they, sometimes people think, oh, I can sell my house for this amount of money. So I think this will kind of help show them houses that are similar to their house, to their home, like what it sold for, to kind of keep them in line. That's kind of what I would use it for, just as, because of course you've come to the home, you've done your homework before coming to the home in regards to, pricing, looking over the CMA, doing your due diligence. So I think it also not only just helps the sellers, but it helps you become more comfortable with sharing and providing information to the sellers that will help drive. Of course, you can't tell them what they should sell their home for. That's kind of up to them, but providing these tools, I think will just lead them in the right direction. So
Definitely, good job. How about you, Kristen?
Well, I'm really familiar with this because I'm, in this crazy process of selling my home. And so I've really looked at this and I've spent a lot of time like convincing and talking to, my ex-husband about the pricing. So we kind of go back and forth about it. But I think this tool was helpful. The days on the market was really helpful because the higher the price, of course, the longer it sits, right? And look at that, like, okay, 34 days, that means we're paying the mortgage for another month, right? I mean, at least like a month on top of waiting for settlement, right? So probably more than likely 2 months or 2.5 months, right? And like, we can't afford to do that. So I think that's kind of maybe the leverage that I found helpful, especially if the property is vacant. Sellers don't necessarily want to sit as long, and reminding them that the mortgage still has to get paid, because you can't be behind, right? I think that is like the biggest piece when it comes to to pushing them towards not listing it too high, I would say. So yeah, I don't know if that was.
That was spot on, both of you. What do you guys think? Paula, Curtis, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. If Paul wants to go, or I don't want to.
Oh,
Go ahead, Paula.
I was gonna say pretty much the same thing, because I'm thinking based on you gathering the information as far as how soon they want to sell. And if they want to sell within the 30 days, you can see here that the higher it goes, the more time, and you won't be able to sell within the time frame that you would like to sell it in. So that's all I had.
That's right. Curtis?
And so what I would say are, kind of chiming in, because, all of you ladies are hitting, are hitting on it, but especially Kristen. So in your situation, what you want to really look at is so I heard this from our amazing broker, but the market has a voice. And so what we want to do is we want to find that sweet spot so that it's not priced too low, because we don't want to leave money on the table. We don't want to price it too high, or like looking at the comps, you can see that the property is going to sit. But if we can find a price that's right in the middle, not only is it going to sell faster, but in this market, in this climate, we're going to get a lot of multiple offers coming in. And that's what we really want. We want 5 offers, 8 offers. And if we price it, if it's priced just slightly too high, sure, we might be able to get a few more offers coming in at a higher price, but it won't go as fast. And we want a week and it's under contract. So, finding that sweet spot, we might get what you're looking for. We might even get higher, but if we price it right, we're going to get more people, especially it's vacant, more people wanting to come in, more people wanting to look at the home, and that's going to increase the chance of multiple offers.
Excellent. Very well put for each one of you. And I will give you a cheat sheet now so that you can see where that is in your listing presentation. So all of us know there is the buyer's desired price range, and then there's the seller's desired price range. So just as Curtis said, the market has a voice, and that's the common price range, right? The buyer, they're going to want to get the property for the least amount of money, and they should desire to. The seller's going to want to sell the property for the most amount of money, and they should as well. But what our job is to teach them what the market is saying, because the market is what determines the value of a property. The exact same property in one market is going to have a totally different value than it would in the opposite market. So we talk to them about the voice of the market, and that's going to be your common price range. And just to sum up what Curtis was saying, if you price it too low, you lose value. If you price it too high, you're going to lose buyers, right? So in the essence of how much and how long, we're looking at that comparative market analysis to determine that. Now, one thing that we got to make sure that we share with the sellers, that comparative market analysis, it is not an appraisal, but it is definitely going to help us to have our pulse on the market so that we know what the expectation is with regards to the price range and the time, okay? So the home selling process is how we determine or how we manage the how easy. We talked about how much, how long, and how easy. So that's where your home buying or your home selling process comes in. So you want to make sure that the seller in this process, they begin to think like a buyer, because that's what's going to help them to position their property to be as attractive to the buyers in the current market, right? So your first or one of your first conversations with them is going to be the critical time when listed. And that's going to be the first week to 2 weeks. In our market, we want to make sure that that's under contract within a week. Otherwise, we need to be having a conversation about reducing the price or doing something different there. But that first 1 to 2 weeks is most crucial. That is when 40% of all the properties, and this is on a nationwide scale, were going under contract, right? So these properties sold when the market was hot, and that is within that first 1 to 2 weeks. The longer the property sits on the market, the more dated a property becomes. All right, I see your message there, Curtis. Awesome. Thank you. The more property aged, I should say. Dated is different. The more property aged or market aged a property becomes. So that makes the buyers then start to think, I wonder what's wrong with that property. Is there an issue? Was there a property with the inspection? Is there a property with the value? Does it have an odor? What's going on? Why is it on the market so long? So the next several slides we're going to go over are going to be things to help the seller prepare the property to sell as quickly on our current market. Does anybody have any questions with regards to that first week to 2 weeks on the market and just overcoming that conversation with regards to price? So then I think that's a good place to have a quick role play there. All right, so I'm going to be the seller, and Joy, I want you to be my agent. And then Kristen, you can be the agent, and Paula, you be the seller, okay? So,
Okay.
all right. So I'll be the seller, Joy, you be the agent, and the topic that we're talking about, you're convincing me with regards to price. So the information that we've just went over, you've had a chance to do your due diligence, you've done your market analysis, you know what the range is, and all the information that we just covered, you have a handle on that information. So now you're going to use it to convince me to agree to your list price. All right. Hi, Joy. Thank you so much for coming. I'm ready for you. Go ahead and get started.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I need to wait for you to start first, right?
You can go ahead, take over. So I'm going to pause. So I'm not the seller right now. As the agent, you take charge.
Okay.
All right.
So
Action.
I'm your, okay. Hi, Ms. Porter. Thank you so much for allowing me to come over to, have a conversation with you in regards to selling your home. And I definitely appreciate you taking the time to complete the intake form that I sent to you. I have a few questions that first thing I wanted to ask you, based on this intake form, why are you looking to sell your property?
You know, Joy, that's a very good question. My husband, he's military, and we're being deployed.
Oh, okay. And where are you being deployed to?
We're going to Alaska.
Oh, wow. Alaska. I think it's pretty cold out there. So does the military provide you housing there, or will you have to find housing in Alaska as well?
So they're going to provide us with housing. We will be able to purchase should we need to purchase, but because we have such a short turnaround, they will provide us with housing for now.
Okay. Well, how quickly are you looking to sell your property?
I need to be sold within the next 45 days.
Okay, that I definitely think that I can help you get your household within 45 days. How much are you looking to get for the sale of your property?
I was thinking about 785 or so. I know that I saw a neighbor's property who sold for probably about 760, but I think our property is a little bit nicer than theirs. So I was thinking maybe 785 or so.
Okay. So what I do want to do for you, Ms. Porter, that may help assist you, and I'm not saying that I don't think we can get 785 for your property, but what I do want to do is provide you with a market analysis. And what this market analysis will do, it will show you some comparable properties that have sold in this area that are very similar to your property. It will provide you with how long the houses were on the market. It will provide you with, of course, their selling price. And what I will do is, take different things about your home, such as your square footage, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, your above ground level versus your below ground level, adding those two together to make sure that we have a total square footage. And I will put that in a system that we use called MLS. And that system will be able to provide me some very detailed information that I'll be able to share with you that will definitely help assist us in the selling price of your home. How does that sound?
That sounds great. I would appreciate that.
Okay, so what I'll definitely do is while I'm here at your home, just so that I have an idea of what your home looks like visually, do you mind if I kind of walk around your home and take a video of your home? So that when I go back to pull up this market analysis, I will definitely have something visual that I'll be able to kind of look at as well as I'm looking at some comparables for you.
That's a very good point. I'm glad you're taking a look at my home. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we can walk around together. Have you done any upgrades recently? Any major changes to your home that I may need to notate?
So my home is only 3 years old, so everything is still pretty brand new. We had a lot of upgrades when we built. So we have the heated bathroom floors, we have skylights in the bathroom, we have quite a bit of upgrades and updates. So we have an oversized kitchen island there. We have Viking appliances. We have a number of things. Let's just walk through and you can take the videos.
Okay, sounds good. As we're walking through, I noticed from your intake form that this development has a homeowners association. I will need you to get some information from them. If we do decide to work together in listing your property, we'll definitely need to get some information from them in regards to your property. Can we stop for a second, Ms. Ford?
Yes,
I have a
let's stop
question.
for a second, not a problem.
Okay.
And when we pick back up, I want to take it straight to pricing. I want you to convince me right now. When we pick it back up, you will have done your market analysis, and now we are reconvening, and I'm going to be trying to convince you 785, and you got to convince me of what the price range is that you saw. All right. So what question did you have? I think you may have muted us, Joy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm picking
No
up a
problem.
child. Right. So what is it called that you have to request that they get from the HOA? What is that called again?
So they need a resale package from
The
the
resale
HOA.
package. Yeah, the
Mhm.
resale package. Okay, so that's what I was thinking about. So you say you want me to go straight into convincing them about the price.
Yeah, so this will be part two. So you've walked around, and I just want to comment very quickly. I'm very happy to know that that's what your thought process is, because in order to give an accurate market analysis, you need to have been able to lay eyes on the property. So either virtually or in person. So doing a video tour of the property, that's excellent, because of course our goal is to compare apples to apples as we're looking at photos on Bright. So I'm glad that you included that. Say, let me actually take a look at the property. Then I can give you a more thorough market analysis. So kudos.
Okay, so now I'm trying to, before you start this again, trying to get in my head how I'm gonna push this price. Or deny, or not go with the price, or not advise that 785 is a good price.
Well, I'll give you hints and tips, and both Paula and Kristen, they can give you tips and hints too. So you guys, as Mr. Porter did, you can be her subconscious and you can be her imagination. I like the way that he did that. So you guys can give her different aspects from what we looked at on the comparative market analysis, right? Because we saw a range, but that range was inclusive of several different things. It was inclusive of the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, the number of, or the amount of finished square footage, whether or not it had a fully finished basement and what that square footage was down there, what those upgrades and updates. So as hints, if those things are different, even if the seller thinks that, okay, mine looks better, so mine should be able to sell more. If some of those things that add value to the property are completely different, then that is what's going to affect the price range. So I'll give you guys those things as hints and let your wheels turn. And you guys can, Joy, you can phone a friend and you guys can jump in there or give her some pointers.
Okay.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Could we,
Okay.
I'm sorry, could we put up the other screen that you had up with
You sure can. Yep. Can you guys see it?
No, we see the,
Not yet. I'm sorry, I'm driving too, so not yet.
Oh, well, maybe we should have Kristen to do this part. I want you to be safe.
Okay, we just pulled off. I was sitting for a long time, waiting for my
Okay.
son to get out of practice, but now I'm driving.
Okay, well, let's let you be safe because we need you around, okay? So
All right.
you can assist, you and Paula can assist Kristen. All right.
Okay.
And I'm noticing that as I go between some slides, it won't, I have to reshare it. So thank you for asking to put that back up, Kristen. All right. So Kristen, Paula, you ladies are there. You've been listening thus far. Joy has done a phenomenal job just getting me warmed up, gathering some information. So you're going to jump right in there. All right. Kristen, when you are ready, you have the same instructions that Joy had. You can go ahead and begin.
okay, so Ms. Porter, you mentioned, can you tell me the listing price that you mentioned again? Where you would?
Yeah, I was hoping 785. I know I saw one of my neighbors whose home closed at 760. And my home is just much more beautiful than hers. I know that we have a lot of beautiful features that she just didn't include in her home. Although her home is beautiful, I think that ours should be able to sell for probably about 785 if she got 760.
Okay, so I see, actually, I pulled the comps for comparisons for your neighbor's house. I see it here, and it was listed at 759 and it closed at 760. I do see that you guys have the same amount of bedrooms, both had 5 bedrooms. However, that property does have an additional full bath. And the square footage is similar as well, but that full bath is going to, how do I say? That full bath, it makes a difference when it comes to pricing. I also wanted to show you, I actually pulled some other listings from other neighbors on the same street and nearby streets. And as you can see here, there's a low, median, and high closing price. So if you look at the low end of the scale, there was a house down the street from you that was priced at $705,000, and it was only on the market for 2 days. Okay, so that makes sense. Same 5-bed, 4-bath, right? Someone snatched that up quickly. On the flip side, the neighbor that you were speaking about did list for $760,000. And their house was actually on the market for 34 days, which in this climate, in this market now, due to COVID and, the housing shortage, is a very long time. And I heard you say that your house is much nicer. However, when square footage and bedrooms are similar, buyers are looking at the number of full baths. That does take a, gosh, I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say. Okay.
You're doing a phenomenal job.
It makes a
Okay.
difference.
It makes a difference. Thank you. It makes a huge difference. So I don't really know where to go from here. I want to say, assuming that, yes, I'm sure your house, like you said, you've been in your neighbor's house, your house has, updated features. You mentioned some beautiful additions. So therefore, maybe that full bath, that you having 4 and them having 5, maybe the features, I think could help justify the listing price at $760,000 as well, right? It could make up for the 4 full baths versus 5. But we also have to look at the days on the market, right? And whether or not you and your husband are able to possibly wait a month before getting an offer. What's your time frame?
So I need to sell within the next 45 days.
So when we think about selling within the next 45 days, your days on the market, you want them to be as few and far between as possible. So in this climate, again, around a week is what we kind of aim for. But again, your neighbor, even though they closed in December, it was still on the market for over 30 days. Then after, with that 34 days, you're looking at 5 more weeks on top of that, maybe at minimum to get to settlement. So you're looking at over 2.5 months. So I really want you to take that into consideration when pricing. Additionally, I don't know if any of your neighbors have told you, but because of the housing shortage, people are getting multiple offers, right? So if you price between maybe the $760,000 and $730,000 range, you could possibly be able to get more offers and possibly go into somewhat of a bidding war. So you want to make your pricing more appealing. And because you're trying to go to settlement within 45 days, you definitely want to stick maybe around closer to that average listing price.
Interesting. That's an interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing that information. All right, we're gonna pause right there. Great job, Kristen.
I feel like I was talking way too much.
No, I think that you did a great job. Joy started it out by doing a great job and you were bringing it home. Paula, I want you to use this information however you feel like you need to use it, and I want you to convince me. All right? I
think they did a good job. I don't know how well I have to.
You can add on it, you can reiterate it, and I will just give you one quick hint there. So Kristen used the difference in the bed to bathroom ratio. If you wanted to just pretend like the property at the top, that 15002 Mary Bowie Parkway, if that were not the subject property, you could use any of these to be the subject property. And one differentiation you can see right offhand is the above grade square footage. You see that difference in one of those properties versus the others. So if you needed to use that to your advantage, hint, maybe that's another way you can, use that information, because all of these are tools that you'll need to have in your tool belt. But depending on the property and depending on the seller is going to determine which one of them you'll need to use. So I want to make sure that you guys are skilled in all of these ways.
Ugh,
All right.
okay. Yeah, I don't
And
actually know
of
what to
course,
say.
Joy and Kristen, you can be her subconscious and you can help her out there too. All right, Paula.
Miss
Paula,
Porter,
it was
real quick,
go ahead.
Miss
Sure.
Porter, real quick before you start.
Mhm.
Just wanted to know, should we ask when you stated that your property, you felt like your property was much
More
nicer
beautiful.
than other properties? I
Mhm.
wanted to ask, is that an appropriate time to maybe ask the seller, well, what components of your property do you feel are much nicer? Like, can you share that information? Because they might say something where you're able to basically look at those particular components that they're talking about and use those as
Mhm.
pieces that you compare as well. So I'm not sure whether that's the right thought process or not.
So
But
I
I
was
know you
kind
that
of
did
thinking
speak
that
about
myself. Yeah, I was
I'm
kind of thinking
glad
that
you said
myself.
that.
Because I was
Mhm.
thinking that, when sellers are trying to sell, or sometimes they're going on how they think it looks versus the statistics of what's actually happening, like you said, in the market. They're going by, oh, well, this looks better, or my place looks better, or it looks bigger. Or it could, because it could look bigger and not be bigger. And they're going by, oh, this looks great. This looks so much better, but it's not statistically, it's not.
So that is an excellent question, and you ladies are having an excellent thought process there. So when your seller is saying, "Oh, I think my property is so much better," what you want to bring them back to is objectivity, right? We are doing a comparative market analysis because it's totally objective. It doesn't have any feelings. It's just what the raw data is saying. And as we pull properties, we've gone through a couple of those different properties, and we actually get to pull them and look at the photos. So one of the things that you use to help your seller to overcome that is you're actually showing them those photos if they get to that point. Because not all sellers will need to see the photos, but this is a great tool to have in your tool belt so that you get to the point. If you do it in Bright MLS, you'll be able to pull it right up on your iPad or your laptop and show them how the other properties compare to theirs. So you've given them the raw data, and now you can give them a visual, so that it's not a matter of, oh, I think my property is prettier. You look at this one and you can see tray ceilings, you can see a beautiful butler's pantry, you can see the foyer, 2-story foyer, and all these different features. And now you can compare those properties objectively so that then they can look and see, okay, I might think that mine looks prettier to me, but objectively, I can see not only the bed to bathroom ratio, but I see all these other features. And then, like we were talking about with the square footage and the other updates and upgrades. So you want to make sure that you keep it objective, because we have to be sensitive to the fact that sellers are going to be very emotionally involved because it's their property, right? They've either built it or they've lived in it, they've decorated it. So this is a very personal thing for them. So you want to be sure that whatever the seller's features are that they appreciate most, you compliment those. You're gonna you take notice of those, and within your remarks you're going to highlight those features, but you want to bring them back to an objective view of the property in comparison to an objective view of the neighbor's properties based on the raw data that we're able to show and backed up by the photos as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
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 Excellent. So this is how you use those tools. So you're just gathering tools for your tool belt, because you're not going to need all of these tools for probably any giving listing appointment. They're going to be different. You have a script, and based on the seller and based on their situation, they may bring up an obstacle or something that you'll need to pull from your tool belt in order to overcome. So I want to make sure we're having those conversations so you know how to manage it. All right. Okay, so let me go back to this page. All right, now, Paula, we're gonna take it home. All right,
So we'll see about that. Um,
action.
okay, Ms. Porter. I know that you are still set on selling for 780, 785. Tell me, what is it about your property that you think is going to cause it to sell for that much?
Well, Paula, I'm glad you asked that. My husband and I, we built this home. This was our dream home. We didn't expect to have to be deployed, and we know that the market is on fire. So we just think that if we list it at 785, we think that the market will allow for us to get that type of return on our property. Not only that, I know my neighbor whose property sold for 760, our properties, we have more updates than her property. So I know we may have a little bit smaller square footage, but we have slightly more updates than she does.
See, I don't do well with the role playing. Oh.
You can do it, overcome it here. This is your safe space.
I know. I'm just one of those people that, as long as I get the information, I think better on actually doing stuff. But okay.
So
So
could Paula,
what were the upgrades?
So I know we have a 2-story foyer. They have a 1-story foyer. We have a 2-story family room, and we have bay windows. We have, let's see, I know we have crown molding throughout. We have some tray ceilings. We have the shadow box molding. We have a lot of molding and features. I know they may have some of them, but I don't think that they have everything we have.
So you're trying to sell based on the features in your home versus what the market is saying the home is actually worth. Based on the numbers that we're giving you, the price, even though you want to be out in 45 days, we're looking at a little bit longer than that if you insist on 780, 785.
What
As you
numbers are you seeing?
Okay, so I'm thinking that you're looking at this. Okay. So 730, we're seeing 725 in 17 days, 730 in 18 days, and that's 760 that you're talking about sold in 34 days. And you need to be in and out. The military is not going to wait again for you to sell your home before you have to leave.
Keep going.
Trying to think.
Kristen, Joy, you ladies can help her out.
No, you're doing.
so Paula, could you talk about definitely when Ms. Porter maybe spoke about what the things that she had in her home versus the other home, would that have been a good time to say, okay, well, let's pull up your neighbor's home, so I can look at some pictures. Also, maybe also as Ms. Porter was speaking on her home and how beautiful she thought her home is or was, maybe stating, oh yeah, your home is definitely beautiful. I can definitely see, you all have definitely done a lot of good upgrades. Compliment her home as well, to let her know that you do agree that she does have a beautiful home, but then maybe show her the statistics, pull up the pictures from the other home as well, because it didn't appear that Ms. Porter was really sure about what that neighbor's home really had inside. So maybe actually showing pictures of that home. Let's look at your neighbor's home. Let's kind of see what their home looked like in the inside. We'll be able to pull it up on the MLS listing, and just glance through some of their pictures, so that we have a clear idea of what their home looked like inside. I'm not sure whether that was a good suggestion or not, but
all of those were great suggestions. Kristen,
Yeah,
it sounded like you had something to add too.
Well, yeah, even based on what they both just said, right? You said you had a 2-story family room. Well, the picture that we saw had a 2-story family room. Your neighbor's house is a 2-story family room. Oh, they also have a 2-story foyer. Oh, they also have a lot of molding. That's interesting. But your house is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, like, yeah. But I think
It's like she's trying to downplay theirs for her to justify her
right.
desire to have a higher price. And it's not downplay as in a negative thing, but I think this is so much better only because it's your home and because you had it built yourself. So for you, it is so much better. But statistically, it's not so much better. It is the same, things in different places within the home, but you all still have the same things. And for most people, and especially for women, the most important thing is kitchen, bedroom.
Right. I think
So
the
that
other
was-
thing. Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the other thing that you said, Paula, was good too. Like, listen, you have to be out quickly. So I even think, like, you see the house that closed at 705, even though that was really low, it was only on the market for 2 days, and the square footage was higher than
Mhm.
Ms.
Mhm.
Porter's home, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, we're not suggesting that you list for 705, but look what happens when you do,
Mhm.
And that home, and you could pull pictures up of that home and show their two-story family room,
Right.
Great points. All of you ladies did a phenomenal job this evening. Those are great points. Remember, when you're working with a seller, it is very personal. It's their home, it's their baby. They have invested their time, they've invested their money, they've raised their families there. So we want to handle them with care and be sure that we help to, as strategically as possible, to help separate them from the emotional aspect and show them their home in an objective light. You're going to compliment, you're going to appreciate, because chances are they're going to have a great home and they've invested in it. They appreciate it. So we really appreciate it. Okay. So make sure that we point out all of those, the great features of their home, but understand what their thoughts are, understand what features are their most favorite and prized possessions within their home, so that you can really accentuate and sell those, right? But that being said, with this market analysis, you've all taken different components and you've used them together. So I want you to really kind of think back through some of the things that each of you have said, because those are various tools for you to use with various clients. So as it pertains to separating them from the emotional element, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I agree, your home is beautiful. Now, with regards to the selling process, I want to make you guys aware that the market has a voice. So I do understand I'm a homeowner. I've sold properties before. My home is worth a whole lot more to me than it probably will be to the next buyer. And I totally understand that. But let's take a look at your home and let's see how it stacks up against your neighbors. Let's see how it compares to make sure we're comparing apples for apples. So we will be looking at all those beautiful features, but we're also going to be looking at your bedroom bathroom ratio, your square footage, the number of levels, the year built, and all of those things. And that's going to give us a more full perspective so that we can look at these things objectively. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Because a buyer who's coming in to purchase your home, they're working with an agent who's going to prepare a comparative market analysis for them before they ever get to the point where they're submitting an offer on your property. They're going to have a comparative market analysis, and they're going to know how your home stacks up against your neighbor's homes. So I'm going to prepare and I'm going to share this market analysis for you. And this is an objective view of the market. And this is going to show you where your property falls within the range of properties that have sold within your area, from the high, median to low. And we'll talk about what our pricing strategy is going to be based on these numbers. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Okay, so those are some tools for you guys. We are going to wrap up here for the evening. We will pick back up on Saturday morning at 9, from 9 until noon. This Saturday, we will pick back up with our working with sellers. It is 8 It's a couple minutes past 8:30. I want to honor your guys' time and let you get back to what you need to do for this evening. You guys have been excellent, excellent participation. So hats off to each one of you. Go to your brokerment library, okay? Look through your working with sellers. Look at your listing consultation. Go to, right when you get a chance, play around doing a market analysis. I know that all of you have had a chance to do it. We have various trainings on it, both in Brokerment as well as on your Porterhouse YouTube channel, so that you can do your market analysis, because we're going to pick back up here on Saturday. Okay? Does anybody have any last minute comments or questions or anything from tonight before we end?
I do. I have a quick question.
Sure.
Ms. Porter, have you ever taken the stance of potentially paying for an appraisal for any of your sellers before listing their property?
So I do not pay for an appraisal for a seller, but you can recommend, if the property type is so unique that there is not a comparable for it, then you want to recommend that the seller gets an appraisal done, and we can refer appraisals to them, but that's their expense.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. Anybody else have any questions or any comments,
Not that I
key
can think of.
takeaways? What'd you say, Paula?
Is it often that you get a lot of pushback from sellers on the price, like they're dead set on this price, and then when they get that price, well, when you list it at that price and they see, hey, okay, I guess you were right.
I would say it's about 30 to 40% of the time that sellers will give you pushback on that price. It's definitely not the majority of sellers. The vast majority, they're going to look at the numbers that you're showing them. They may request more than one market analysis. Sometimes you'll have them, they'll come in and they will have already gotten some numbers and they want to see what you're going to say. But in my experience, 30 to 40% of the time, sellers they're going to challenge you on the price, and you got to know how to overcome that, because overcoming that how much in advance is what's going to determine whether or not you get the listing.
Okay.
Great question. Kristen, you have anything for us before we end for the evening?
No, I liked talking about this particular the sheet. I mean, I've looked at it because, you know, I've gone through the process myself, and it's interesting because it's interesting that we were like laughing at you about how amazing you think your house is. And I feel like I've had the same conversation with you about my house. So that's what I'm doing as I'm sitting here. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's acting like me. But yeah, this was helpful. And I literally, that days on the market tool was the biggest piece when he and I were, you know, determining the price. So, but I'm glad that you mentioned the square footage piece. And I don't know, it's just nice to hear everybody's input on what they see on this page. So it's helpful.
Excellent. All right. Well, you ladies are rock stars. I will see you Saturday morning, 9 a.m. If you need anything in the meantime, give me a call. I do want to let you go so that you can get back to the rest of your evening. Thank you for carving out the time to join us for your new agent training this evening. Have a phenomenal rest of the evening.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got it.